yet. All right. Great. Well, I very much appreciate you including Faculty Staff Assistance Program. We're happy to be part of this today. This is a really important discussion. And I also want to introduce our Executive Director is on the call as well, Dr. Paula Gomes. If you want to wave your hand. She's our Executive Director, and I asked her to jump in at any time during my part of the presentation. And we really know that this is a time that all of us are being stretched in different ways. And so it's important that we lean on each other, that we ask for help, that we're willing to try some new strategies and be open to being flexible. So one of the areas that I'll be focusing on the main area I'm focusing on is self-care for faculty. And one of the things that I always point out is just the fact that you are on this webinar shows that you've prioritized this and that you've taken some time for your own self-care. So I first want to congratulate you for doing that. And for those who weren't or aren't able to get on here today, as Eric said, he is recording so it can be available to others. So thank you again for joining. And I'm going to share my slides now. And I'm going to put it in presentation mode. All right. And I know we have others joining us. Welcome. One thing that you see here in this image is not just the big circle of self-care, but curiosity and exploration. And I thought this was great. There are a lot of images out there related to self-care. When I saw this, I was thinking about how we all have to be creative during this time. And all of you have already shifted very quickly to doing online teaching, or you might be doing more research or writing online. And whatever the case, we do have to be creative in how we move forward and how we cope. And so I love that this one had the curiosity and exploration. Another thing that I think is important is if you look down in the bottom right-hand corner, I added setting boundaries because all of these, if you think about it, all of these different aspects, whether it's priorities or choices that you make, awareness, acceptance of, saying it's okay for me to set boundaries, being confident or trusting others to help support you. Almost all of these can tie into setting boundaries. And that's something I'm going to circle back to in just a little while in terms of some of the keys to balancing the support you're providing for students as well as your personal well-being. Okay, it's always important to laugh during difficult times. And I hope this is bringing a smile to your face. I don't know which room you're in, if you're in the self-help room or if you are in the fixing others room, but whichever one you are, think about it. Do you need to shift yourself over to the self-help section? I and many others often find ourselves maybe spending a little bit too much time or effort or focus on fixing or helping others. And this is something that when you think about the students that are in your classes or that you're mentoring, do you have a tendency to, put too many hats on, to be not just the professor, but the therapist or the fixer in some other way? And is this a time where it might help you to step back to really focus on yourself more? And speaking of focusing on self more, in looking at a lot of strategies for self-care, the very first one I usually highlight is the importance of just stopping and taking some deep breaths. And so I'm going to actually have you practice this with me now. And there are a lot of different methods of doing diaphragmatic breathing or deep breathing. There are many out there that you have access to now that are free, and whether you're using Healthy and Reconnect or some of the other resources that we have. This is one called square breathing. You may have heard of it before. And so what you do is for breathing in, you do that with 4 seconds. You hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold again for 4 seconds. So I will encourage you, you can participate in as much or as little as you'd like to, but I would encourage you to take this time to practice with me. So if you'll get in a position where you're very relaxed, to get as relaxed as you can, and just take a deep breath in through your nose, hold, and breathe out, and keep holding as you're breathing out. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. If you haven't done deep breathing in a while, it might feel like you're having to hold for longer than you're used to, but the more you practice it, the easier it gets. And doing slow, intentional breathing is really important. There's a lot of research out there about the benefits of this. And even if you only have 1 minute in between a class or a Zoom meeting or something else, just stopping and doing either some type of meditation or breathing can be really useful. So we'll do this one more time. Breathe in, hold, and breathe out, and hold. All right. Thinking about strategies, there's so many out there. And of course, given that we are in the environment with the pandemic right now, I have shifted a lot of my tips and strategies to focus on the here and now. But a lot of these really can apply anytime. And so in addition to doing some of the deep breathing, and I just realized I skipped over a slide. Creating a routine is really important for remote work. So when I do webinars or daily refresh or other check-ins that I'm doing with groups, a lot of times I'm asking, how many of you have brushed your teeth today? Or how many of you are barefoot? And it's great that we can maybe just dress from our stomach up and be super, super casual below and not have as much structure. At the same time, some people really need more structure. They need to, even if you don't, maybe you shower in the evening, wash your face, splash some cold water over your face. Make sure you get something to eat. Brush your teeth like you would on a regular day. And these types of things can help you feel more prepared and ready for the day. In terms of schedules, and this of course depends whether you live alone or if you have family members, but either way, you still need to prioritize some tasks and responsibilities for the day. And of course, we do have to be flexible. If you have kids that are having online classes or younger that need attention, that's why it's important, maybe even the night before, to think about, what do I need to do to get ready for tomorrow? And am I going to need to negotiate a workspace? Most of us don't have 2 offices in our home. So if you have a partner or spouse who's also working, do you need to let each other know the night before, okay, when are my really important meetings? And take turns who gets what space, or maybe you can work it out to each have your own dedicated space that's quiet. It's really, really helpful. And as you see, I say, at the same time, expect interruptions. There are going to be times where we just can't help it, and it's not the end of the world. Also really important to take periodic breaks. I can't say this one enough, to stand up, stretch in between classes, meetings, um, find ways to decompress. And you can figure out what works best for you. But I would say at the very least, standing up, stretching is important to do every hour. And some of these other things is often, if you can do something every 90 minutes, that's really helpful, to take a break, go outside, or sit in front of a window. If you can't go outside, just have some sunshine available. And maybe you take your break to call someone that makes you laugh, or watch a funny video. There's some great videos out there now, especially of cats and dogs that are really cute, that can be calming. And another thing I think is helpful is to communicate with your students and your colleagues what your plan is in terms of when you're online and available, because we can't read each other's minds necessarily. And you may already have specific ways that you're informing folks of your, just like you did in your in-office hours. But just make sure, if you haven't communicated that clearly, that you're letting people know when you're available and when you're not available. And that does include your colleagues as well. Physical health, again, can't say enough about this one. It's something that we know with the research, even though it might be hard to motivate yourself to get up and get out, especially the pollen we've had recently. It is getting better though. And just, other barriers that might come into play that are making it hard for you to get out. This is so important. And so incorporating times to exercise, and it might be family exercise, it might be just you by yourself. They're great fun. And at the end, I'll show you some resources, online free resources if you can't get outside. And of course, I added the hand and face hygiene here because of the virus that we're dealing with. And ergonomic posture, there is a video that's available through the Health and Wellness team that gives some tips on setting up an ergonomic space. So if you haven't done that, that's really important. Some of these tips you've already heard before. I'm not going to read everything word for word, but we know we have to be careful about how much we're watching the news, and it doesn't help to watch it over and over and over. So pick a time of day. Maybe you once a day, go online to check the news, and then once a day turn the TV on to check out what's the latest. But don't watch it repeatedly. That does not help us. And then look for reliable sources, of course. One thing that I'm experiencing some, and that I know a lot of others, is Zoom fatigue. And if you have found yourself in that place, it's okay to adjust some of your meetings to talk on the phone. I know Paula, who I introduced earlier, she and I, especially if it's towards the end of the day, we are just like, let's just call each other and take a Zoom break. And then, of course, with boundaries, this is especially important for faculty, for you all, in terms of working with your students. As you know, it's important to listen to concerns that they're expressing, and I'm sure that you are hearing many, many issues and concerns, and you're hearing different issues, because there's some students who may really be liking this studying from home, and others that are finding it really difficult. And they have financial stress, they have possibly family stressors, other things that are going on that they may be sharing with you and kind of leaning on you. And again, it's important to listen and to express concern and care. It's also just as important to be assertive with them. And if you need to set limits about the amount of time that you have to talk to them, or the ability to help whatever they're coming to you for, let them know, I'm glad you shared this with me. I'm sorry that you're dealing with this. This is something I can help with, and this is something that I would need to, refer you to someone else for. And so, if they're needing extra time for a paper or test or something, that might be one thing. if they're putting you on the spot about something that you feel like is not in your wheelhouse or that is not appropriate for you to take on, just letting them know there are other resources and that you need to refer them. And sometimes just simply saying, no, not able to do this right now, given circumstances or whatever reason. And I think about this too when people ask us to volunteer or do favors. I think a lot of us tend to feel like we have to immediately answer, and you don't. You can say, well, thank you for asking me about this. I appreciate you considering me. Let me think about this. I've got a lot of other things going on, some other requests. I need some time to think about it. And you can get back with the person if you don't feel like you can answer right then. A few other things in terms of control. If you've read any of Stephen Covey's work in the past with 7 Habits, he talks about we as humans tend to spend way too much time focusing on our circle of concern and what we're worried about and what we don't have control over versus our circle of influence. And so think about those things, whether you need to start writing lists to get more organized, or do other things as a faculty member that will be helpful, and focus on those instead of the things that you don't have control over. Embracing the stress that we're dealing with right now is especially important. Yes, you do need to work on reducing some stress and letting go of some stress, but also embracing that it is what it is. So think about some type of embrace mantra that you can use right now that will help you in the long run. And it might be this too shall pass, or I've got this, or we're all in this together. Whatever that is that can help you throughout the day. In terms of perspective, what we say when we talk to ourselves is so critical. And if you tend to be glass half empty, if you tend to have negative self-talk, this is a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful time for you to begin practicing more positive self-talk and challenging those negative thoughts, thinking of ways that you can see the light at the end of the tunnel instead of the darkness. And I'll absolutely add humor. I can't say enough about that. Humor at this time especially is important for us to find humor in things and share humor with others, because we know that laughter and smiling is healing. We need to give ourselves a break. Being kind to yourself, most of you, if not all of you, are super kind to other people, students, colleagues, friends, but are you just as kind to yourself and giving yourself breaks? And that leads right into, flexibility and being realistic with expectations of everyone and yourself. We're not in normal times. This is remote work during a pandemic, not remote work during normal times. And so we're going to mess up. There are going to be mistakes. There is still a learning curve. And it's okay if your child or cat walks in front of the camera occasionally on Zoom. You don't want that to happen all the time. You don't want a barking dog all the time. But occasionally it's fine. Don't get too worried. Most people laugh or like to see those kind of things. So I love this quote: when life's strong winds come blowing, bend with them and let go. By bending, you will become stronger in new places. By letting go, you will be making room for the new and better. Soak that in. Staying connected is really important during this time. Social connection, since we have social distancing or physical distancing, social connection is extremely important. And there are lots of different ways you can do that. It doesn't have to be just Zoom to do connecting with others. I know, some people are teaching their parents or older loved ones how to use Zoom and getting family calls to connect, or friends that normally go out to dinner, you schedule a time for a call. But there are also some great resources online if you just want to watch the animals in the zoo, or the bird cam, or some free art, listening to opera. There's so many out there that you can get access to. And in terms of your work as faculty, finding ways, and you may have already started doing this, virtual communities for ongoing support, whether it's a writing group, research group, if you're talking about grant or grant writing or research, it might be on a weekly basis, every other week, even peer huddles that you can schedule maybe once a week to touch base. How are you doing with your, online teaching or online research, and what are some tips or experience that we can talk about that might be useful? And even eating, taking a break and eating when others are eating online. Also, in terms of our attitude and having more of that glass half full, if we practice on a daily basis thinking of things that we're grateful for or something good that happened, we are more likely to cope better in the long run. There's a lot of research about gratitude and the benefits of gratitude, which I'm happy to share that another time. And, at each day, if you could, either write down 3 good things that have happened today or 3 things I'm grateful for, even if you can only come up with 1, that's better than none. And if you share it with someone, that makes it even more alive and real and can create camaraderie, and it can be contagious. If you share it with others, they may share it. We do a gratitude chain in our office, and one person will start an email about something they're grateful for, and then others will pick up on it. And then finally, pay attention to how you're doing. How's your mood? How are you feeling? What's going on with you right now? Are you struggling with depression? Are you struggling with anxiety? Have you had a loss due to COVID-19, or do you have a family member that's very ill, and are you grieving right now? There's so many resources, and we at the Faculty Staff Assistance Program are here to provide support as one of those resources. So know that you're not alone in this, and be willing to reach out, because that is part of self-care. And whether you utilize our services or you want to go to a private practice clinician through your Aetna benefits, or some other resource, just reach out and talk to someone. It's really important. We're all in this together. Okay, so I'm shifting now just to talk very briefly, because I know I want to shift for all our other speakers to share. With our services at FSAP, during this pandemic, we're offering our services telephonically and through video conferencing. You can see the list of services here. The main ones we provide are the short-term counseling, that you're eligible for up to 6 visits at no cost, whether it's for individual or couples. We don't see children or adolescents individually, but we occasionally can do a family session with the parent or parents there. And we do a lot of parental coaching. So if you're just wanting some coaching around that, feel free to call for that or other areas of coaching. Leadership consultations. We just started, as of next Tuesday, we are offering evening appointment hours. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 5 to 9. So the latest start time would be 8 o'clock for an appointment. And you can use this in whatever way you need. A lot of times when people think about counseling, they think, oh, well, I'm not depressed, or I don't have major anxiety, I don't need counseling. But you can use it in so many different ways. You can be proactive and talking about some things that have been challenging and brainstorming together about some next steps. You can see our number there, and as well as our email that folks can call. I will also show you a list of resources that you can access online. And we're providing group support sessions. So whether it is related to grief and loss, related to COVID or non-COVID, departmental sessions we can offer online. We're doing a lot of support and skills group sessions where departments will talk about how they're doing, what they're challenged with, what are some things that are helping right now, and kind of shifting into resilience and strategies that folks can practice during this time, or simply just a workshop on stress management strategies. With the daily refresh, we informally started it this week, and we've been doing it at 2:30, but we're shifting it to 4:30 starting Monday. So you'll see more about this, but I just wanted to highlight that it's a 15-minute huddle, basically where one of our clinicians is sharing a particular educational tip and then doing some type of practice, and it's just 15 minutes. So hope you can join, and that can be a good break between shifting from work to personal responsibilities if your day, if you work those times. And then with our website resources, I wanted to pull this up real quick. If it will work, it may not. Okay. And so on our website, this gives more detail. You can scroll down to see that information I just shared and the link for the daily refresh, some articles. And then if you're wanting to share our list of services with anybody, you can open that link that goes into detail. And we
Robin, just to let you know, right now we can just see your slideshow only.
Okay, so it's not showing the...
We can't see your web browser.
No, you'll need to do a new share screen.
Just unshare your screen and then share it again.
And
Just
I'm looking at the time. I want to be respectful of other people's time. So perhaps we can circle back to this, and I'm going to show one more slide before I shift. There are some great resources on the Emory HR site that you can go to, and we can make sure all of you have access to this PowerPoint that are provided, as well as hot off the press, this new website that was created for both Emory University and Emory Healthcare that has a lot of free resources. So let's see how the time goes, and then I'm going to stop sharing now. We can circle back to this if we're able to. So I hope that's helpful. I know some of those are very basic strategies, and hopefully some that you're already practicing, but I think it's helpful to have a reminder of the importance of implementing some of these things during this time.
And Robin, can I just add just very quickly, and good afternoon, everyone. I just want to highlight, when we were first planning this session, we were really wanting to highlight the importance of faculty taking care of themselves. We recognize, as Robin highlighted, that often students are coming to you with many issues and concerns. Also, feel free to contact us just for consultation. How do I say no to a student who seems to be distressed? How do I set those boundaries? So know that you can have a consultation, you can have some coaching, we can help assist you with taking better care of yourselves. Because if you take good care of yourselves, your students will be better. And there are a number of resources there for them. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you, Paula. That's important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin and Paula. And now we're going to turn it over to Jordan Crawford and Allison Butler. Jordan, you are still muted. We can see your slides. I've just unmuted you.
Thank you. Okay. I was trying to get back. Okay. So let me share that again. Or I think it is being shared. Okay. Can everyone see the slideshow?
We can, yes.
Okay, perfect. So Dr. Butler and I just kind of wanted to go over how we can support you guys in implementing accommodations, either in the in-person or also now the remote classrooms, because we know that that can be very stressful. You know, speaking of students who might come to you with, you know, a lot of different needs or concerns, it can be really stressful. Sometimes they may ask you to do things that you're not quite sure how to implement or what's really reasonable. And so Allison and I want to make ourselves available to you guys, if you have any case specific questions. But I'm just going to give a little bit of guidance in general right now. And then please follow up with us if you have any questions. And I'm going to go through a bunch of resources as well. So just a quick overview of our office. And we've actually, I apologize, we just changed from the Office of Accessibility Services to the Department of Accessibility Services. So it should say DAS. So apologies for that. But basically we handle all of the student-facing accommodations for the university. So to register, students go through a registration process, and then they meet with me or sometimes Allison, and that is how their accommodations are approved. So if they're handing you or showing you a letter through our new online accommodate portal, they have been already vetted on a certain level, so you can, be at ease with that. They're not, trying to manipulate anything. But then really the essential piece of accommodations, and this is the same whether it's in person or online, is that you need to have a discussion with each student that's approved, because the way those accommodations may look in your specific classroom can be very different. So I'm going to do a quick overview of our website, especially for faculty. So I'm going to do a new share. Our website is just accessibility.emory.edu, or if you search things like Emory Disability Services, it will come up in a Google or other search engine search. But I wanted to go over the faculty resources tab, and then I'll also briefly go over the workplace access tab, just so you know where it is, because you as Emory staff and faculty are also able to get accommodations if you are eligible. So just so you guys can know where that is. But for the faculty resources piece, we have a lot of different guidance online. And so anytime you have a question, especially if it's not within our business hours, feel free to peruse the website, because I think it does give a lot of really great guidance. So that way you don't feel like you're not getting any answers or having to wait for us to get back in the office, especially now that scheduling phone calls and appointments on Zoom can be a little bit different than just picking up the phone and knowing that somebody's going to be in their office like usual. Assisting you is, I think, really one of the helpful links that we have. So we have some tips. The descriptions, I think, are really useful, so that way you can kind of see a list of what we would typically provide and the way that that may look. So, what is ASL interpretation? Knowing a little bit about what that might look like. Implementing some common accommodations, such as testing, note-taking, and then the ones that I always get questions about is the flexibility with deadlines and flexibility with attendance. I'm not going to go too far in depth on those, but those are two that are going to take a lot more discussion than just something like, okay, well, I've said the note taker announcement, so we've hired the note taker and you're good to go. These have a lot more of that gray area, and so it's important that those discussions take place and that both the faculty and the student are really clear on what those expectations are.
To piggyback off of Jordan, those specific two types of accommodations, the challenge with that is that because of the classes of being so variable. So really some of it will depend on how your course is designed and how you have specific assignments laid out, how your emphasis on attendance and participation, which are important, what that looks like in the context of your class and how that's tied to specific learning outcomes. So that's why it's a little more challenging to navigate that accommodation.
Yeah, that one takes a lot of specific, kind of more detailed conversations. And so it's important that those conversations take place and that some sort of a written record is kept as well, just so that way, I mean, we know you guys have a lot of students, and when the students get stressed out, they may forget too. So it's good to have something to look back on and refer to clarify. I also want to go over briefly accommodate for faculty. I'm not going to log in because I would have to kind of like log in as an actual faculty member. I don't want to do that to you guys, but you would log in if you are a faculty member tied to any course that's active at a certain time. So right now, obviously the spring 2020 term is active. You log in and you'll be able to see all of your students' accommodation letters. And that will help you organize, you know, okay, who have I talked to? Who have I, you know, still not heard from yet? What are the accommodations? Those are listed on each student's accommodation letters. So this is a really great resource. And we also provide a resource library with literally click-by-click instructions for you guys to follow to help make that process a lot easier. And then also we'll communicate with you in more real time through our announcements and newsfeed section. So if there are updates about the system or even things like upcoming deadlines for students that you should be aware of, just so you're in the know, we'll communicate that to you there. And then to just briefly go over other ways that we can support you if you are in need of accommodations. This is not something that I handle personally. My colleague Joelle Butler does. Although if you reach out to me, I'm happy to refer you to her. The workplace access section goes over really how, if you are eligible, what that process for applying for accommodations and, you know, what the intake for that really looks like. So we actually even give guidance for just you as an employee if you're wanting to register for yourself, or if you're a manager supervising someone else that maybe you suspect has a disabling condition, or that they have disclosed to you that they have a disabling condition. This gives you some guidance on how to move forward there. Okay, now we'll go back to the PowerPoint. I just wanted to briefly go over some remote learning considerations, just because we have gotten some questions from both faculty and students about you know, what's going to change in terms of accommodations for this new environment. The overall picture is that accommodations do apply to any Emory program, so remote or in person. There are a lot of programs that have already been happening remotely or through distance learning. They are covered in pretty much the same way as an in-person or a classroom-based class. But the way the services look may be different than in the classroom. So one really clear example is that, you know, students with extended time are no longer going to a specific space such as the OAS office to take an exam. They're taking them from home. And so now it's more of a conversation about, you know, how is my extended time going to be reflected in the software that's used to administer the exam now. And then some students will actually require an adjustment to their plan based on the new online environment. We have a couple of students with hearing loss that we have had to pretty much triage and get some captioning services for their live Zoom classes in place, because in person, what they're able to hear versus Zoom with a lot of the technology interference and different internet speeds, it's a lot different for them. And that is impacting them more than it does a student without hearing loss. And so we have been working with the teachers, the departments, TAs, IT, everyone to get those services set up. So if that is a consideration for you, that a student is asking for something new that may not be already on their plan, let us know. I'm happy to jump on a phone call. We can do Zoom. Our vendors are really great too. If it's something that requires a third party, we can explain what that's going to look like for you, so you don't have to feel so uncomfortable with it, especially going into something maybe for the first time. And we will get that set up. And then the last consideration is that really all of our students, whether they are registered with our office or not, will experience a lot of increased mental, physical, and emotional health concerns. I know of a few students who have underlying health conditions who have now contracted COVID, and that's been a big concern on them, not only physically the toll it takes, but just I think a lot of the anxiety and the fear is really increasing a lot of their stress, and you may feel that pressure on you as well when they're asking you for, maybe a rearranged due date or different things like that. And so if that's the case, then a lot of times we're going to have to coordinate between quite a few different departments. But go ahead and ask us the question, because it's not something our department or I can do. I usually know who else to start with in the other school or the other department. So if you're noticing that and you have some questions about how that could look, and maybe a student needs something more immediately now because of the situation, we can move forward on that as well. So then, speaking of resources, I'm going to give you guys this PowerPoint at the end, so I won't go over it too in depth, but there are a lot of really great programs that are available all the time, but some of them may be more pertinent now. So, contact us if you have any questions about accommodations. Student Success Programs is a great resource, and it's undergraduate and graduate programs. CAPS is the same way, and so is Student Health, which also has psychiatry and an e-care concussion protocol, because all of these issues are things that aren't going away just because we're focused on COVID right now, but they're also available for students when we are in person. So that's all I have, and I'll go ahead and hand it over to Dan.
All right. Thank you, Jordan. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Greetings from my 4-year-old's very messy bedroom. I will share my screen as quickly as possible so you don't have to look at that. There we go. Okay. And apologies for the overly cool, edgy looking black background. I just find that after a day staring at my laptop, this is just much easier on the eyes. So as Eric mentioned, my name is Dan Dillard. I work in the Office for Undergraduate Education in the College of Arts and Sciences. So my job here today is to just kind of give the view from the academic affairs perspective. And I know that we've got faculty from all over the university, so I'm going to try to be as general as possible and just talk about the College of Arts and Sciences experience as just an example of some of the great things that the university is doing to help students, but also to help faculty, some of the academic options available to faculty and students alike. So the thing we need to keep in mind is that these are exceptional times, right? Normally, when I teach, I don't like to make exceptions. I found that when I raise the bar high, students will stretch to meet it. And that when I set the bar low, they will usually do the bare minimum, and that's it. So I think we do a disservice to students when we don't challenge them. But that was then, and this is a unique place in which we find ourselves. I mean, our students are dealing with things that they've never had to before. This is their 9/11, right? They have family members dying. They are facing money issues and home security issues and so on. And so when possible, we need to just be kind and considerate. Offer whatever leniency and flexibility and generosity you can. We really just need to get them through the semester. Be human first. If a student reaches out to you and they say they are sick or a parent is sick or what have you, be human first. Ask them if they need help, and then we can wrap around to, the academic needs after that. And then just know that you don't have to be the expert for everything, right? We've got lots of people here doing, their own specialties, their own specializations. So if it's a technology problem, route them to IT. If they've got a financial aid issue, send them to that office. We've got the hardship fund, the Emory Together Fund to help students if they're having issue with not having, internet or a laptop or what have you. So just send them on as needed, and then do what you can, internally. And just also know that each college has its own people, its own policies and resources. So if you're in nursing, you know that Arnita Howard's your person, right? If you're in public health, Joanne Williams is your person. Likewise, if you're in the College of Arts and Sciences, send them to the OUE, send them to their academic advisor, to a dean. We are more than happy to help. And then, if worse comes to worse, students can always utilize the student complaint procedure. If you're working with a student and you're not able to come to an understanding, absolutely lean on your director of undergraduate studies, director of graduate studies, your department chair. There are plenty of people here who are happy to help and help you navigate through this. So some of the options that are available to students right now. First, internally, as you're teaching your classes, by all means, with regard to absences, late assignments, make up exams, feel free to do what you can internally. As you know, Emory's absence policy is that it doesn't really have an absence policy, right? Deans can, excuse midterms and finals, but otherwise, this is a contract between students and faculty. So if a student has to miss something for COVID-related reasons, absolutely, feel free to give them that leeway. Feel free to give them additional time for assignments, to make up an exam if they're not able to take it for whatever reason. You don't have to, by any means, but that is more within your discretion. Likewise, students can avail themselves of a number of different resources. All students can change the grading basis for their courses to pass-fail, to satisfactory, unsatisfactory, up until the last day of classes. We're even accepting petitions after that, up to May 11th for our graduating seniors, up to May 18th for non-graduating seniors. So that's one thing that students can just do themselves. They don't even need an advisor's permission. Course withdrawals, we were allowing those up until last Friday, but even now we will still accept and consider petitions if a student needs to withdraw from a course. Now, granted, there are some things that we would need to discuss with that student. For example, if it drops them below 12 credits, that might negatively impact or affect their academic performance, their financial aid, satisfactory academic progress. So this is something that they would need to discuss with an advisor and a dean, but this is an option. Likewise, for students who are, seriously ill, physically, mentally, emotionally, we can discuss full medical withdrawals with them. We do this all the time. It's not, ideal, but sometimes a student just needs to sit out the semester. Incompletes. As always, students can request incompletes. They can discuss this with their faculty member, and it can be approved by a dean up through the end of the semester. So long as the student has met the three benchmarks. One, they have completed at least 50% of the material. They can reasonably, expect to pass, and they can reasonably complete the remaining work on their own, save for the administration of exams and grading. Then we can absolutely consider an incomplete. And while faculty do have the technological ability to enter an I grade, we really would like you to send them on to a dean and their advisor, just because we can do an academic scan, see if they're on probation, in which case an incomplete might actually hurt them more than help them, make sure they don't have too many outstanding incompletes, that sort of thing. And then in the rarest of situations, faculty also have discretion for changing grades, after grades have been submitted. A semester later, you have full discretion if a student submits additional work or revised work to change a grade. Now, after a year, this does have to be approved by a dean, just to make sure that it is reasonable and not, for example, being done in retaliation against a student lowering a grade, for example. And these really are rare. Usually, if a student gets to this point, they should have either withdrawn or taken an incomplete in the first place. But occasionally there is a time when this would be, acceptable. So just, long story short, there are a lot of options available to students, and you don't need to advise them on these. You don't need to tell them, oh, I think you should do this versus this versus this. But it does help you to know as you are, routing them onto the advisor and just thinking about the different options available to them. And lastly, in the most special circumstances, occasionally a student goes beyond just, the routine, academic challenges. I'm talking about things like, suicidal ideation, or you haven't seen them in your class, for 2 or 3 weeks, this sort of thing. And by all means, that's when you need to route them, submit a student concern form. This is Adrienne Slaughter's team. She, serves the entire university with her Center of Student Success Programs and Services. So, the College of Arts and Sciences, we receive a large number of these, anything from 1 absence to, like I said, the tier 3 darkest of the dark. And you shouldn't hesitate to utilize this. You submit it, they will address the most pressing concerns first, and then they'll route it back to the Academic Affairs Office just to tie up whatever needs to be done, be it a withdrawal or an incomplete or what have you. And then one last thing that exists for students, the Faculty Committee on Academic Standards is the only governing body that can really make exceptions and waivers to a lot of the academic rules and regulations that exist. And one of the things that they are authorized to grant is retroactive academic relief. So if a student should have taken a full withdrawal, and for whatever reason they didn't, they're holed up in their dorm room, they're depressed, they're dealing with anxiety, they get all Fs, they feel their career is ruined, chances at graduate school, professional school, that sort of thing. We can consider petitions for academic relief, which in effect changes all grades in semester from graded to pass-fail. And if they had all Fs, it would change to all Us. It doesn't look pretty on a transcript, but it does have a 0 net impact on their GPA. Give me 1 second. I'm seeing some chats come in. Make sure they're not for me. Okay. So this is something that I would be happy to work with the student on. You can send them to me and to the committee. So again, it's never an entirely lost cause for students. There are lots of options available for them, and you just need to make sure you're routing them as needed. So I know we only have 5 minutes left. I do want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us, and I will leave the rest of the time for any questions or discussion that you'd like to have. Thanks, you all.
Yeah, thank you all the presenters. This was really great. We are approaching 3 o'clock, so if anyone feels need to leave, you're welcome to leave. But at the same time, I think that most of the presenters are not in a super big hurry, so if the questions stretch on past 3, that's also okay. I think there's a few enough people in the audience. If somebody wants to ask a question, you could probably just unmute and go ahead and ask.
Hi, I'm Mimi Kaiser. I'm in the School of Public Health. Thank you for hosting this, and just to even the title of it was affirming and supportive. Just to see that come into our inbox, and to actually articulate that is a challenge, the balance of our own self-care and care of students. I don't think I've ever been this challenged to manage that balance. And so it was very helpful just to have that named. For the accommodations, is there anybody in the school, as we're looking forward to possibly more online teaching, is there anybody that has like instructional design expertise for people that need accommodations? Because so much of the online learning requires, a lot of functionality, particularly related to time, and completing things on certain times because of the discussion formats and, responding to discussions. And, I think one of my students did okay with it, but I think I had fewer students this semester in my class than typical that need accommodations related to those kinds of things. So it just might be something for the university, if they don't have that, to be thinking about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mimi. There have been so many conversations going on behind the scenes you're right on time with that. First of all, there's the concept of universal design, but then once we break it down for every academic unit, because historically we've operated separately, of course, because of different academic standards, professional, or accreditation body that we're, associated with. There's so much differences in curriculum design. And unfortunately, what we haven't done yet is that some departments may have an instructional designer that might have some background in design, especially in like these different environments. Historically, we haven't had that because we've never really, I think there's been so many changes. I mean, we're going forward with that, but it's challenging because now to create that space and body, there's like some internal, we might have to rely, especially with the state that we're in right now and budget. It would have been nice to have a whole department, like enterprise-wide, just to be able to support that, whether it be the technology specialist that would be some type of institutional representative to help consult different academic units and departments and provide training. Luckily, we do have academic technologies, which is part of the college, and they support, some of the Canvas, accessibility learning features and things like that. But when it comes to the specific academic divisions, this will allow for us to kind of think of those things, especially, and definitely keep talking to your dean and, explaining the need, because that will either lead to somebody internally getting trained on ways to support these needs, or we could probably build out a department, and I'm talking about years later, years from now, but, just continue that conversation, because we are doing that from an institutional wide standpoint. So thank you so much for that. And yes, we definitely know and understand.
I think one of the most common accommodations, and it seems to be like more of the current generation that's been coming into the university, has been this time, the need for extra time.
Absolutely.
And so I think that the online techniques around that are particularly challenging.
They are. And then there's the thing is, there is some embedded leeway. So always feel free to consult us.
Okay.
But there is some embedded leeway in a remote setting. I used to be at an online university, and we did offer flexibility with deadlines. Attendance not so much, because of the way that those courses were designed. So is the way the variability in the way the curriculum is designed, because every faculty member is different, but also, the types of assignments. Like sometimes we've had students that they have extended time for tests, but they're trying to apply that to a take-home exam. So especially if you have a finite amount of time to complete it, let's say 24 hours, all of those pieces are embedded. So you don't need any additional time for that. If we're thinking about an assignment, if you have it depends on when it's available and open. So if you have an assignment that appears the remainder of the semester, and there might be a need to extend it maybe one more day, but if you're trying to extend it for like a week or something, that there's some guidance that we have about just helping you think about the type of assignment it is, what is it, how's it tied to specific learning outcomes, and what is the specific need, if it's an emergency, like how, what is coming up for the student. So we're here for that too.
Thank you very much.
I'll briefly add, there's a fair bit of information on the CFD website that tries to get at exactly these kind of questions. And there is also a section where we specifically link to some of the excellent web pages that Allison's group has put up about disability services and accommodations and so forth in the remote learning environment. So.
Oh, great. Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much.
And always contact us too, because we're here for you too. We're here to support faculty, students, the entire campus community.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm not hearing any other questions. It is after 3 o'clock. And I think at this point we've shared out
I
lots
see
of
one
addresses.
I
Oh, there's
wonder-
one hand is raised.
I know this is going to come up on the video when you have it, but I was wondering, right when, if you could mention, you said there was a website about ergonomic posture. I think, Robin, that was, you mentioned stuff
Yes.
about how to, that's so much
Yes.
time on the laptop. That has become a thing for me this month.
Okay. I mean, I can quickly share right now. Let me go to. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
You can?
Yes.
Okay. Now this is our website, and if you scroll down, this is what I was going to show you earlier. The list, if you open that link, has a list that goes into more detail about our services and some of the group offerings. And then let me go back out of that and if you scroll down to the bottom, to the very bottom, you see health and wellness resources. And I think they've posted it on here. Let's see. Maybe not this one, but let me show you one other site.
Robin, I think it's on the main
The
HR site.
HR COVID.
Mhm.
Okay, this is a great website for you all to explore. And I just usually Google Emory HR COVID to get to it. And so this bucket here, the FSAP, is the one I just showed you. Some, good strategies for remote work, financial resources, family resources, health and wellness, spiritual, professional development. You can see all of these things. I keep adding things, but let me open this one and see. Okay. Oh yeah, this is where it shows you a lot of the free programs, the virtual fitness programs that you have access to. And then it focuses a little bit on stress. We should have, there's nutrition, sleep. There we are, ergonomics. It's a 10-minute webinar that you can watch.
Okay, great.
So it's at the very end
Okay,
of that.
great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Paula, do you want me to share the new website?
You can.
Okay.
Yes, there's a new COVID support.com website with a great deal of information.
Okay. I can get to it from, let's see. Do you remember the exact title of it, Paula? Let's see. That's our site, but oh, I know, I have it on my PowerPoint. Let's see. Sorry, this is taking me a second. I've got a couple of things up here. Here it is. Okay, I'm gonna do this one more time. for some reason, it keeps bringing up this page instead of,
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. Let me see if I can get the actual.
yeah, because before I was able to just go to share screen.
There it is. You have it up now. Because Robin, you do have it up. Do you see it?
I've got this one up, but I was trying to get, let me put this website in. There we go. Now, can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, this is brand new website, just launched for Emory Healthcare, Emory University. So if you go to links for wellness programs, it gives a daily schedule of offerings that are free. And on Monday, you'll see the one I mentioned earlier that will be at 4:30 for the sessions we'll be doing. But this has a lot of great information about CBCT, meditation, yoga, other opportunities that folks can do on a daily basis.
Great.
And then the middle one has just information about different departments. The psychiatry, they're doing some free 30-minute consultations for healthcare employees, School of Medicine, and a couple other areas. And then our information, Healthy Emory, Spiritual Health, CBCT, Faculty Academic Advancement, Leadership and Inclusion. And the final bucket has some free wellness videos and resources that you can access. So if you all want to type this, it's Emory, www.emorycovid19support.com.
Okay, I think we can conclude this webinar. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you again to the presenters. And
thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Right.
Bye.
Okay, thanks again for organizing this.
Thank
happy to do
you.
so. This was great.
Yeah, definitely. All right, bye you all.
Bye-bye.